Okay, so we're going to install the video card. I could have done this when it was down before I did the power supply, but I just didn't do it that way. So one thing to consider is that in this particular motherboard there's two slots. So you'll see there's this long slot here. This is a PCI Express slot, and then this slot here next to the M.2 board is another PCI Express slot. This slot is PCI slot 1, this is slot 2. There's also a little, this is another PCIe slot, this is PCI 3. You have to take note of your graphics card to make sure if you have a PCI Express version that only supports PCI Express 3, you're gonna have to use this port because this port supports PCI Express protocol version 4 and 3. This one only supports PCI Express version 4. So this particular video card, so I'll show you the video card. This is the video card that I bought. Now, video cards can be extremely expensive. They vary all over the place. It depends on what you need, what you want, and how much you want to spend. I don't want to spend a ton of money, so I kind of get not the lowest end, but kind of mid. I kind of go for the middle range try to find a good value. So I got this particular graphics card. It's not top of the line, but you'll see it's got a lot of fans on it, a lot of heat sinks because it's a common theme. And most graphics cards are going to look like this. Maybe some of the slower ones won't have as much heat dissipation on them. But this one has 4 ports on it, so you could drive 4 displays. And it takes up 2 slots on the back of the computer. So what I did was I wanted to see where I want to mount this card because I have 2 choices. I can mount it here or here. This card supports PCI Express 4, so I can go into either one of these slots. So if I went here, it'll fit here, but then I have to wire, so you'll see over here there's all these ports. These are SATA data ports, these are other power ports. So I have to, one of the final steps is to do some wiring. So I have to do some wiring in here. So if I have the video card down here, I got a really tiny space to work in. Whereas if I put it over here and it's not blocking anything, I checked there's no power ports that I have to plug into. If I ever want to use that M.2 slot, I probably have to take this out to install it because it would be in the way. But this is where I'm going to put the video card. So it's one thing you have to decide as to where you want to mount the card. So I'm going to mount it in the first slot. So I need to take out 2 of these panels for it to slide in. So let me take these out real quick. Okay, and then these just lift out. Okay, so now I got the slot exposed. So I'm going to take the video card and you'll see it has, here's the connector. So it only goes in one way. Obviously there's this little shoehorn, and then these are all the pins, and then there's a little notch. And if you look in the port, there's a little notch in the front, and the little shoe part fits in the back part. And this is a little lever, and it's just like the memory. When it plugs in, it'll clip in itself and lock it in. So the key here is to kind of just, yeah, there's plastic on this particular card, so I could probably take that off, otherwise it may be hard to get that. I don't know why they put this to protect the shiny metal, I guess. So we'll take that out. It's a good spot, because I probably would have struggled with that once it's in. So key here is to get the little these little fins, and you want to get them between the case and the motherboard. There's a little slot. So I want to get those kind of in place, and then get the card above the slot, and then we're going to just push down. Okay, so that looks good. So the back part is in. I can see the slot. The card is right in the slot, and there it is. So I'm just going to push down until it clicks. Give it a tug. Okay, that's in. So that's how you install the video card. And then there's there's screws. So the screws that came off, I'm going to put those back in so that the card doesn't wiggle. That's one. Two. And then, if you can, I don't know if it's hard to see on the video, but this is the power port right here. So when I go to power things, there's an 8-pin plug here. That's where the power from the power supply, which is actually right underneath the shroud here, the power supply is there. I'll route the cables so that it'll plug right in here. And then basically the computer's done at this point. The only thing left to do is install drives, which I'll show you. But the last piece I always leave to last is the wiring. So when I showed you on the power supply, here's the motherboard port that plugs in. The CPU ports over here. I got 12 pins. Here's I plugged this into the fan. This is the RGB connector, and this plugs into this. There's little white pins. That's a RGB header. This is all in the manual for the motherboard, so I could show you. For this particular motherboard, it shows you what all the ports are. So when you plan out fans and wiring, you kind of will decide where you want to plug things in. So you kind of want to have an idea of how you want to do that ahead of time. If you want to make it look nice, because this case has a glass cover on this side, so you'll be able to see inside the PC. So typically when you want to see inside, you want to take care of how the wiring is routed, so it's not kind of a rat's nest. And then this is the power supply to the fan. There's a plug right here. I'll plug that in down right there. And then the last one of the last steps is also doing the wiring for the fans. That does take some time, because if you want to do it where it's neat, it takes some time to plan that out. But I'll show you the drives and then we'll go from there. But essentially this is the computer, and it's kind of basically, I don't need to put other drives in, right? Because we have this M.2, so I don't need any other drives. I could wire this up and install the operating system, and it's a function computer. But I do have 2 other drives that I install just for storage.